Have you ever found yourself waiting for a message that never arrives, as if your peace depended on the presence of someone who barely notices your absence? Woman, your shine doesn't come when he notices you. Break. Your shine begins when you stop begging for crumbs of presence. This phrase is not just a slap in the face of complacency, it is a cry for freedom. It is the moment when we wake up. Because for a long time we were taught to believe that being seen is synonymous with being loved. But today we tear up that script. Your value does not lie in his gaze, in his time, nor in anyone's validation. It lies in the courage to choose yourself, to look in the mirror and remember that your light is not a reflection, it is a source. And when you stop chasing after those who won't stay, you start walking in the direction of who you always were. This is not just a video, it is an invitation, a new beginning, and enough. And if this phrase gave you goosebumps, comment below, enough, enough. Of diminishing yourself for attention. How many times have you found yourself checking your phone, waiting for a response that never seemed to come? That notification that never arrives, that scene at 10:43 p.m. that swallows you up inside. And then, like in a silent loop, you start to ask yourself, what did I do wrong? But there was no mistake. What happened was a trap, an emotional trap that imprisons you in silence, and its name is neediness. This is not just any word, it is an internal state that makes you believe that you need the other person to be enough. It is what leads you to tolerate less than you deserve, just so you don't lose someone who isn't even willing to keep you. And this doesn't happen because you are weak. It happens because at some point you were taught that love is about putting up with it, that being available is about being too intense, and that if he pulls away, it is probably your fault. But it isn't. The pain of emotional neediness has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with the story you have learned to tell yourself, and maybe it is time to rewrite that story. I'll tell you a scene that you might be familiar with. She's 28 years old, independent, intelligent, beautiful, but in silence, she falls apart every day, waiting to be chosen. He disappears, shows up when he wants, says he's confused, and she, even though it hurts, accepts the crumbs. Not because she doesn't know she deserves more, but because she believes that if she's patient, he'll notice. And then she adapts. She cancels herself out. She diminishes what she feels so as not to scare him. She waits, but time goes by, and she gets further and further away from herself, until one day, sitting on the edge of the bed, cell phone in hand, no notifications, she cries, not only because of his silence, but because she lost herself trying to be enough for someone who didn't even know what he wanted. And if this story seems familiar, it's because it repeats itself with different names, but with the same invisible script that holds thousands of women back every day. The fear of not being loved, the fear of loneliness, the fear of not being enough. But let me tell you something important. From one woman to another, neediness is not a defect. Neediness is a symptom. It is the reflection of poorly received affection, of validations denied in the past, of absences that have become the norm. The trap is in thinking that the other person comes to fill this void, when in fact the first step to getting out of this cycle is not being chosen by him. It is choosing yourself. And if you got this far, it was not by chance. This video is a mirror. It is to remind you that you do not need to beg for affection, that your pain is real, yes, but it is not a sentence, and that the woman you are trying to be already exists within you. You just need space to blossom. If you saw yourself in this story, comment, I deserve more. Not only to make your presence felt, but to make it clear that your change begins now. Because the more we talk, the more we heal. And the more we heal, the less we accept crumbs. It's time to transform neediness into awareness and presence into self-love. You are not alone on this journey, and here we are together. Have you ever wondered how many times you've confused someone being with you with someone really wanting to be with you? Because there is a brutal and painful difference between presence and love. Presence that comes out of habit, out of convenience, out of fear of being alone, is not caring. It's accommodation. True presence is a choice. It's when someone decides to be there, even when it's not easy, even when the world outside calls. But what happens to many women is that they learn from an early age to be content with half-hearted company, with messages without depth, with touches without intention, with lukewarm relationships that numb more than they warm. And then, without realizing it, they start to force space where they're not really welcome. They maintain loose ties in the hope that one day it will blossom into love. But love is not born of insistence. It is born of reciprocity. What keeps you there is not affection. It is the illusion that, if you try a little harder, he will finally notice what you have. But no one loves because he insists. Love cannot be begged for. Love is built with real presence, not with shallow presence. And this is where the most important point of this conversation comes in: self-love. Because it is what fine-tunes your filter. When you know yourself, respect yourself, and take care of yourself, you stop accepting empty presence as if it were enough. You start to realize that those who really want to be with you arrive without excuses, without delays, without games. And more than that, you start to see that your energy is too valuable to be given to those who only show up when it is convenient. When you make yourself a priority, something changes, not outside, but inside. Your time becomes sacred territory. You stop chasing after others and start walking side by side. And in this place of awareness, you don't ask for attention. You attract connection. You don't beg for validation. You build genuine exchanges, because self-love is exactly that, the thermometer that defines how much less you allow yourself to receive than you give. And if you are tired of having to explain what you deserve, perhaps the question you need to ask is not, "Why doesn't he see my value?" but rather, "Why do I insist on giving so much when I receive so little?" The truth, woman, is that you were not made to live in halves. You were made to overflow. And that only happens when you decide to stop insisting on those who see you as an option. This decision does not happen overnight, but it begins now, at this very moment, with the awareness that presence without choice is not presence. It is disguised absence, and you are no longer here to accept disguises. The time has come to understand that your value does not diminish when the other person moves away. Quite the opposite. Sometimes moving away is the best proof that you are finally stopping accepting the minimum. You are learning to choose more carefully, to feel more clearly, to position yourself more firmly. And that is liberating, because when you understand the difference between someone being for you and someone is despite you, everything changes. So comment value down here if you are tired of accepting shallow presence when deep down you know you deserve depth. This comment is not just a rant, it is a commitment to the woman you are becoming, to the strength you have rediscovered, to the love that from now on begins within and spreads. There is a kind of silence that doesn't hurt, a silence that is not absence, but reunion. It is that moment when, after so much chasing, so much explaining, justifying, waiting, you finally hear yourself. That is when the shine begins, not in the reflection of the other, not in the validation you beg for, but in the pause, in that deeper breath in which you understand that you no longer need to wear yourself out to be seen. It is in this silence, almost sacred, that you stop chasing after someone who was never really there, that you put down your cell phone, dry your tears, and start to go back home. And that home is you. True shine has no loud sound, nor immediate applause. It arises discreetly but firmly when you choose yourself in the midst of chaos. And there is nothing more powerful than a woman who finds herself again after abandoning herself for so long. This glow is not about makeup, about image, about body. It's about presence, yours, about how you treat yourself when no one is looking. It's the way you start to not accept less than you deserve, not out of pride, but out of respect. How you start to walk away from conversations that diminish you, to refuse invitations that don't have your truth, to silence external voices, to listen to your own intuition. You don't need to be hard or bitter, you need to be whole. And being whole is often a solitary process. But this is the kind of solitude that doesn't weaken you, it strengthens you, because little by little you realize that change begins within. When you stop looking for in others what you can only find within yourself. When you understand that you no longer need to fit in where you don't fit in, nor fight for space in places where your presence is ignored. The glow that begins within you doesn't ask for permission. It illuminates, it transforms. So, woman, if you are tired of turning off your own light to fit into dark spaces, know this. Your return to yourself is the beginning of everything. Don't wait for the world to validate you. Validate yourself. Don't wait for someone to save you. Save yourself. Every time you choose your silence over the confusion of others, you are saying, I love myself. And self-love is the root of any personal revolution. It may seem small at first. Something unsaid, an absence answered with inner presence, a night slept in peace just for having stopped insisting. But it is in these small gestures that you plant the woman who is blossoming. And if you have come this far, if you have felt each word echo within your chest, it is because this woman is already awakening. So keep going. Walk lightly but firmly. The shine does not begin when it returns. The shine begins when you return to yourself, and this is the shine that no one extinguishes. You know that moment when you stop responding right away, not as a game, but because you decided to listen to yourself first. That is respect. Respect for yourself, because when you respect yourself, you impose space. And it is not a cold space. It is not the silence of someone who wants to hurt. It is a warm, necessary space that maturely says, here is my limit, and crossing that limit has consequences. Space is not punishment, it is protection. It is when you stop teaching the other person that they can step on you just because you love them. Because many times we confuse intensity with blind surrender. We confuse being available with being too vulnerable. And this is where self-love comes in as a guide. Healthy space is not distancing yourself out of anger. It is the ground where dignity grows. It is the moment when you decide not to lose yourself, trying to keep someone close, because those who truly respect you understand this space as freedom, not rejection. And it is at this point that it is worth stopping everything and asking yourself honestly, do I respect myself as much as I expect others to respect me? The answer hurts sometimes, but it frees, because many women have learned to give themselves up until they are empty, believing that this was love. But worthwhile love never asks you to abandon yourself. It does not require you to give up your principles, your time, your peace. On the contrary, it reinforces these pillars. So, when you set a limit, when you decide not to respond to a message that is toxic to you, or when you choose to leave an environment that suffocates you, you are saying, I see myself, I validate myself, I do not need approval to know who I am. And believe me, this is stronger than any speech. The space is where the other person learns to see you the way you position yourself. Those who accept anything teach the other person to offer the minimum. Those who stand firm show that they are open to love, but not at any cost. The language of respect begins with you. There is no point in demanding consideration if you constantly nullify yourself. What you allow, you teach. What you tolerate, you model. That is why space is more than an attitude. It is an identity. It is the confirmation that you have understood your value. And the clearer this awareness becomes, the more natural it becomes. To leave situations that do not serve you, without guilt, without drama, without fear. When you create this space, you also create a new reality around you. People who truly want to be with you will understand and respect this limit, because they know that there is self-love there, not pride. They will realize that you are not difficult, you are defined, that you are not distant, you are fair. So, if all this made sense to you, if you felt this tug of conscience in your chest, comment below. I respect myself. It's not just a phrase, it's a turning point. Because at the end of the day, the respect you want from the world needs to start from the most intimate place, from you to you. And when that respect becomes your foundation, nothing and no one can dismantle you anymore. You don't have to beg to be loved. You don't have to scream to be seen. A woman's brilliance isn't in how much she's noticed, but in how true she is to herself, even when no one is looking. And there's something deeply liberating about understanding this, because a woman who truly shines doesn't force connections, doesn't fight for attention, doesn't compete with anyone. She knows her own worth, and that changes everything. Her brilliance isn't loud, but it doesn't go unnoticed either. It's made of presence, of posture, of conscious choice. It's not the brilliance of someone who wants to prove something. It's the brilliance of someone who has already understood that they don't need external approval to continue being light. And if someone doesn't see this, it's not because she doesn't shine enough, it's because the other person is still too blind, too trapped in their own emptiness to recognize the true light. And that's okay. It's not your mission to diminish yourself, to fit in with the gaze of someone who still doesn't know how to see. This is the turning point that so many women need to experience, to stop begging for presents, crumbs, empty answers, broken promises. Stop trying to make someone feel what you feel, see what you see. Surrender as you surrender. Love is not convincing, love is tuning in. When you are connected to your essence, to your inner glow, you begin to attract others in a different way. People who recognize your light approach you with respect, with intention, with truth. And you stop wasting energy trying to fit into tight spaces, in incomplete stories, in relationships that require you to nullify yourself in order to exist. This is what shining is. Occupying your space with dignity, even when the world insists on extinguishing you. It is keeping your soul lit even when the other person's presence is absent, because your light does not depend on anyone. It starts within, and it grows stronger every time you choose not to chase after those who are not running alongside you. And maybe now you are seeing yourself in these words, remembering how many times you felt like you needed to be more to be enough, how many times you struggled to sustain a connection alone while the other person barely moved. How many times you mistook absence for a test and empty presence for love. But today, now you understand. A woman who shines does not beg, she inspires. And this light that you carry can no longer be hidden in anyone's name. So honor this process. Honor every part of you that chose to stay even when everything inside screamed to run. Honor your courage to keep going, even with a tired heart, because all of this is also brightness. And if these words touch the depths of your chest, comment below, I shine, because you no longer need to beg for presents to be loved. You are already love, you are already light, and the world will have to get used to seeing you like this, whole, awake and shining without asking for permission. Today, woman, you choose to stop. Stop begging for attention. Stop waiting for messages that don't arrive. Stop lowering your voice just to fit in the silence of those who don't know how to hear you. Today, you choose to stand up, dry yourself, look at yourself in the mirror with courage and say, I am my first love. It's not ego, it's healing. It's not pride, it's awareness. Because you understood that those who truly see you don't need you to make an effort to be noticed. They will feel it. They will notice it. They will recognize your light before you even open your mouth. But until that someone arrives, or even if they never do, what matters is that you keep shining. For yourself, and for everything you've been through and survived in silence. Your shine doesn't start when someone loves you. It starts when you finally love yourself back. If you've come this far, breathing deeply, with tears in your eyes and your soul beating, know that this is not weakness. This is strength, the strength of someone who is tired of living half-heartedly, the strength of someone who has decided that pain will no longer dictate your worth, that you no longer need to be chosen by someone to validate your existence. You choose yourself, with all your flaws, your stories, your mistakes, your setbacks, and most importantly, with the courage to keep getting up. You embrace yourself on nights when no one understands you. You hold on to yourself when the world seems to be falling apart, because you understand that healing love begins at home, and that home is you. You are your shelter, your root, your source. And from that moment on, everything that comes from outside is just a sum. It will never again be survival. It will never again beg for crumbs to feel whole, because you are already whole. So, woman, if something inside you has awakened, if this video shook you inside, if you felt as if someone was narrating the pain that you thought only you felt, comment below, I choose myself. Not on impulse, but as a commitment, a vow to yourself. Share this video with a woman who needs to remember that true love begins in the mirror, because none of us are alone on this journey. We just need the courage to find ourselves. You're no longer begging, you're radiating, and whoever has eyes to see will find you. But until then, keep shining, keep being, keep going, because you are too much light to live extinguished for fear of bothering others. Choose yourself, today, tomorrow, always.